add scenarios. These are going to be our scenarios buttons. The name ID is the name that the programmer provides. The button text is what the end user will see. We choose an icon. And now we have chosen to add a select macro to that button. So as I press that button, events and actions will occur. And by creating the select macro, by choosing create by name, that will occur, and we get to define what are the events and actions that will happen later on. So we've just created the scenario for presentation, and now that brings us to our contents, where we provide a name ID. Again, that's programmer friendly. The button text is user friendly, an icon, and choosing when I press that button, will something happen? And choosing power on when selecting will allow us to, when I press that, to power on the devices that are part of this content. So what devices are part of the content? We're going to move ahead to scenario construction. We add our projector because as we switch for the presentation, the projector is the endpoint. The switcher, output 1 of our Pro 4x1 switcher, is connected to the HDMI 1 port of the projector, and the Apple TV is input 1, the Icon Video Conference input 2, and our laptops are input 3 and 4. Now here we see in the properties the subname. Subname is what text will show up for the end user on the GUI. So instead of just having two empty laptop, now we get to see podium laptop, table laptop. So this is whatever text you'd like for your end user. So all of these input connections on the projector and the switcher are ultimately just discrete commands for selecting. What else did we have on the presentation icon on your iPad demo? We have single devices in addition to the endpoint. So single devices, as was defined previously, we're going to put the Apple TV there because when we press this, it's going to basically be our means of showing the Apple TV remote, but also by choosing select macro, we're going to switch when selecting, and we've now are able to reference the destination, the AV endpoint of the presentation that we just built. So by pressing this button, we know now that this is the Apple TV device that is input number 1 of the AV endpoint. Additional single devices, giving a programming name for the lights, entering the button text. What is the icon that we provide here? Now we don't need to create a select macro for the lights though. Instead it's just going to bring us to our lighting dimmer or scenes keypad. So here we are in the scenario construction where we have auxiliary, and that's where we keep lighting and security and that sort of thing. Another single device to add to our system will be the thermostat. So choose the icon. So again, we're just building buttons here. We're defining what are the buttons we're building, and we're defining the properties of these buttons before we advance to scenario construction. And for the single device, we could say, okay, show us the remote for our thermostat from our Lutron system. And lastly, on the presentation, if you're following along on your iPad, is the projector remote, just in case they want to access other inputs or something like that. So choose the appropriate icon. And do we want to call some events and actions by pressing that? No, instead we just want to see the remote. So we drag the projector over, and now, because we've already defined it, we know all of the connectivity from the projector on backward. Save early, save often, as you often should in the software world. And now we've completed our first scenario.